live here on SourceFedNERD. I am Matt Lieberman. Joining me on the couch today, Maude Garrett is here.
Hey guys, how are you? Just high-fiving all everyone there. Hey, one for you too.
Hey. DJ Wooldridge is here.
Hello.
And our special guest, Tiffany Smith, is here from DCL.
I really thought you were going to go to me first. I just was doing this face.
You're just ready.
The whole time waiting, it just got awkward.
No, because you're special, so you get the last.
Yay!
The last spot.
And now we get to talk about you, Tiffany Smith.
Yeah. But real quick, just to set up the show for today, as always, this show is available on YouTube, on iTunes, on SoundCloud. If you are not listening or watching to the show in some way, shape, or form, how are you paying attention to this right now? How's that even happening? Wow. So if you want to listen to this show, you can go to iTunes, rate and review the show. It really helps us out. If it's not showing up in your subscription feed, go back to the iTunes store, resubscribe. A bunch of people have been having issues, but you can solve it that simply. It's really, really easy. You can also go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel, SourceFedNERD, give the video a like, maybe a comment. And of course, we do this show live every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you can always join us and tweet at us using the hashtag SHRoundup or write to us in the chat roll, which we got right up there on a screen for us, and we're going to be talking to you for this whole hour. The question of the day, we always have one. Today's is, which franchise is doing better right now, hype-wise? Marvel or Star Wars? It's an intense debate. We've got a poll up online right now, and we actually have it in the description of this video. So if you're watching us live, you can go down into the description, and you can click on that poll, and you can vote for yourself. Right now, I'm not going to say the exact votes or the percentages, but right now, Marvel is beating Star Wars, guys. So, Star Wars fans, let's get that up, okay?
Close, though.
It's close, though.
It's close-ish.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
It's pretty neck and neck.
It's not where it should be, that's for sure.
We're also going to be talking about all the news out of D23 this past weekend, and of course, any and all movie and TV news that has dropped in the past week. But first, Tiffany, I want to talk to you. How are things over at DC All Access?
DC All Access is awesome. We're coming back September 8th with all new episodes.
Awesome.
So I'm super pumped about that. This season, obviously, up till now, we've been talking about all the TV shows, which we've got so many more this season. And all the new comics. Vertigo has a ton of new stuff coming out, which I'm a huge indie reader. So Vertigo, to me, I always get super pumped about.
This is what you told me about. Recap Vertigo?
What?
Did you tell me about Vertigo?
The whole, like, it's the indie title, but it's like a bunch of different books. So, like, The Wake would be Vertigo. Sandman.
That's it.
Sandman came from Vertigo. So, yeah, DC
V for
All
Vendetta, like, all,
Yep,
Vertigo.
all that good stuff.
You read an indie book that you liked a lot. It was made in the 80s to 90s
that
to
wasn't
early 2000s,
necessarily
probably
superhero.
Yeah.
Because it's more of the non-hero kind of side of things, which we had an awesome panel at the Burbank Library a couple nights ago with Jim Lee and Dan DiDio that I got to moderate that was all about the DCE essentials.
Oh, wow.
And so it was just talking about, there's a book that has like the top 100 books that you should read if you really want to get invested in all these DC characters. And it has indie ones too, so I can help you out with that.
Remember when I was ranting about 100 Bullets last week? That was a Vertigo title.
Well, you mean because of Tom Hardy doing that?
Oof.
You're not excited
no,
about
this? No, because I was hoping I would make it on Hollywood in time to make it myself.
Oh.
100
It's a
Bullets means a lot to
purely
me,
selfish
it's super
argument that he
selfish.
has.
Also, but again, Vatican tapes writer.
Yeah.
We'll move on. So anyway.
You can't judge someone by one movie, DJ. You
true.
can't.
But I do have a little
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sad times over there.
But yeah, Vertigo. Vertigo has a ton of great books.
Hey, tell us all about the my favorite story about DC All Access is the how you got the job story.
Okay.
Like they're legit with this.
Yeah. So I moved to LA to work for G4 Attack the Show, so I've always been super nerdy. And then started working for Marvel first, actually. I hosted their live streamed red carpets for the premieres, which was awesome. And people were always like, well, do you like Marvel or DC? And I'm like, I like good stories and pretty pictures, so I'm a fan of both. So when DC came to me and they were like, hey, I was talking about this earlier. I had dinner with some friends who worked at DC. I didn't know the show was happening, so they jokingly now say that was my initial audition because we were talking comics, and they're like, this girl actually knows what she's talking about. So I come in. They definitely quizzed me, asked me questions to know, like, what comics are you reading? Can you talk about current titles? They went to the comic shop that I shop at to make sure that I actually went there and, like, talked to the owner and was like, hey, does she come in? Like, what's her story? Also so that they could get to know a local shop, too. Yep. But I'm like, it's one of those things where
it's like a crazy conspiracy. It's like you're not working for the FBI.
But it's also, I mean, and Maude can speak to this, where it's like, you're a girl in the industry, you know you're going to get a lot of flack as to, does she really know what she's talking about?
But it's also a deserving person in the job, because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be on television. Yeah, I know about games. Yeah. Oh, games. Yeah. Okay. And
Yeah.
it's hard for us to kind of like,
Sure, sure.
get credibility.
You're saying that this is a primarily white male-dominated industry? No.
Yes.
Crazy.
What? Not true at all.
Yeah.
So it actually made me excited.
Literally
'cause I
two white
knew
males,
that-
right?
Yeah. It's
Guys,
true. It's super true.
I'm helping out your
Ethnic-
racially diverse ethnic quota on this
We
episode
appreciate
today.
it.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
But yeah, so that's what happened to get that job, and then after that, it's kind of just been. You go to Comic-Con and you do interviews and you're like, there's no prep for it. They're like, hey, you're going to talk to Gail Simone. Go.
Nice.
Hey, you're going to moderate
Very
this panel
talented.
with Scott Snyder and Heath Corson. Go. So it's kind of like if you don't actually know your stuff, then it's going to show up on the show and people are going to know immediately. So that's a little bit about DC All Access, where this new season will be awesome. We got to do set visits last year. We'll be at New York Comic-Con. Which kind of leads me into some Star Wars stuff too, because I guess I'm hoping that we get some Rebels stuff there. I don't know.
Oh,
We'll
man,
see.
that would be great.
Yeah.
That show is so impressive to me.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Ezra took a little bit to warm up with me.
Nope.
One time.
Nope, you're wrong. It did not take you.
It did not take a while, and Ezra's lightsaber is the one that I want.
Do you know what I had a problem with? And this is the same thing where it's like, if you're a fan, like you need to be so authentic with your fandoms. When I was interviewing the cast of Rebels, the guys were wearing Star Wars shirts, and I was like, when was the first time you saw Star Wars in the cinema? I was there in 1977. I was front row when I was 11. And then the guy who voiced Ezra, Taylor Gray, he was just like, I think I saw the prequels once, and I was like, oh dude.
You just wrote them off then and there.
You need to, I'm saying this as like a friend to help you.
Yeah.
You need to learn everything now.
Yeah.
Because you will get eaten alive.
You will
You are
get
in a
smoked.
universe. And
Yeah.
it's the same
Yeah.
thing with any kind of fandom,
Yeah.
especially in the geek world. We're so
Yeah.
protective and you must like it.
No.
I was like, I think he's a bit better now.
Well, I think that's one
He's
of the
improved. He's done
first.
his own work.
One of the first panels I did at a convention was called. Am I allowed to curse on this?
Yes.
Okay.
You are allowed to
It's
fucking
called
curse
I don't
on
know
this
shit
fucking
about
show.
comics. That was the first panel I ever was on. And it was really a panel just to have people feel comfortable to come up and ask questions. Because,
Oh, I
I mean,
like
people who
that.
are just getting into comics don't know what the difference is between like a trade paperback, a graphic
Yeah.
novel,
Of
like a
course,
weekly
yeah.
or bi-monthly comic that comes out. And so it's one of those things where I always try to be really open because I know, and when I first moved to LA, I did a comic book shop tour of LA to pick where my apartment was going to be
Yeah.
because I was like, I can't go to a shop that they're rude to girls or
Yeah.
that I can't chat with them or that it feels uncomfortable because I'm going to go every week. So I did a bunch of shops, and some of them, you get that like weird, we're not going to talk to you, you don't know anything, are you shopping for your boyfriend?
Yeah.
And then you find a place that's like a home because literally it's like
Yeah.
the local bar that you go to.
I've had
first-
really good luck with Melt comics.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're really great over there.
Yeah, I was
First ones
eyeing
I
off
made
a-
out here were my comic shop.
Yeah.
First place I stopped was a comic shop, and they
Yeah.
were really cool, and I've been going ever since.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got to find a comic book home.
Yeah. So let's talk about D23 because we had some Civil War footage drop.
Yep.
A lot of great stuff out of there, and the reaction to this footage has been out of this world.
Which is funny because it doesn't sound like an impressive. It sounds like a bunch of people talking at each other.
Right. And
Based
I mean,
on the descriptions that have come out of it.
I think it just sounds fun. It
Yeah.
just sounds incredibly
Yeah.
fun. It wasn't anything mind blowing, but people are. I think maybe after how underwhelming Age of Ultron was, people are just like, oh, it doesn't suck
Yeah.
because there's
Well,
a lot of
also-
concern.
After Ant-Man, though, too, because it was like
That was cool.
Ant-Man's
Right.
such a smaller scale film, one
Yeah.
story as opposed to what this
And it also had to fight against all this negative press right out of the gate, even though it was really a terrific little movie. And I say little movie with like all these special
Yeah.
effects, but like
Yeah.
compared to something like that, and there's so many people in this cast. It's the movie's got a lot going against it in terms of.
I'm not going to lie, I tuned out for 1 second. What movie are we talking about?
We're talking about Civil War.
Oh,
The
thank
only
you.
person not in
We're
this
talking about-
is Samuel L. Jackson.
Pretty much.
We're talking about D23, which I'm going to be honest. This topic came from D23 and the fact that it was one of those Disney's big thing. Marvel's not even showing up at Comic-Con,
Yeah.
and it's like here's some Marvel stuff. Star Wars,
Yes,
you know.
yes.
It was a very
Would-
much a Star Wars centric.
Did any of you
Event.
were any of you
Yeah.
guys at D23?
I was not. No.
That's why we need you
gonna-
Okay.
to tell us all about it.
So the Marvel panel was the only one I actually got to watch because the way they had it set up, I was there for Fandango Movie Clips interviewing everybody who's coming off the stage in the press room. So the way it was set up was the interviews were going on as the panel was going on.
Yeah.
So I watched the Marvel panel, went back to the room, and then interviewed Chris Evans and Anthony Mackie, which I'm like, as I'm saying this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I got to interview Falcon and Captain America. It was so cool. But so, yeah, I watched
Be truthful. Was
Yes.
Anthony Mackie drunk? Was Chris
No.
Evans drunk? Remember how drunk he was on the red carpet for...
I wasn't there, but I heard about this.
God, he was...
The shade
I heard
thrown.
that it was like...
He's a really good
I wouldn't
drunk, though.
be like, I mean, the two of them, I know they flew in directly from Germany. They're filming,
Ooh.
did this panel, and we're flying back to finish filming.
Awful.
So
Yeah.
they could have just been like totally jet lagged and loopy. They were singing. They were really lively. They were really, really fun. Everyone was
That's
pumped
cool.
to talk to them. But the footage, so I couldn't really hear everything that was going on because I was backstage, but they had a screen back there so I could watch it all. And literally, like, my producer, who was like, she works for Fandango, but she's like, who's that? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? And I was like,
Shut up!
Yeah, just let me watch it, then I'll fill you in. It's like, that's Crossbones. That's Bucky. And he said he remembers it, and this is what's going on. So the footage was awesome because of the fact that, as you say, there were so many characters in it, and I think it kind of gave me the same feeling that when I first saw footage of Avengers, because you're like, there are all these new characters that we know. Obviously, we got the tiny clip with Ant-Man, Paul Rudd in it. And that blew my mind, where you're just like, oh my gosh, seeing the interaction. Because we got a little bit of it with Falcon.
Yeah.
But seeing him interact with Captain
gotta say, I'm a
America,
big fan.
Yeah.
where it's like, it's just so funny and cool. And the moment that stood out to me was seeing Black Panther on the big screen.
Did you actually get
the
to see him on the
claws.
big screen?
Yeah,
That's
you got to
cool.
see him, and you got to see the claws
Did he look
come
great
out.
in motion?
It looked awesome.
Yeah.
Super.
Like, it looked like I want it to look.
When I hear claws coming out, it just reminds me of the Family Guy episode where everyone gets superpowers and Meg can only
Grow her nails
yeah,
out.
Yeah. And she's like,
Yeah. I think
not
of
that
the
lame.
characters
It's
we're
really
going to
cool.
see in Captain America Civil War, I'm most amped to see Black Panther. And I'm also interested because they announced at D23 that Doctor Strange is going to be another origin movie. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of hoping that Black Panther, since Black Panther's in Civil War, that once we get the Black Panther movie, he's Black
just
Panther
go.
and we're rolling with
Yeah.
it.
And we're just going,
Because not everybody...
Especially considering that we also met probably the villain of that movie in Avengers Age of Ultron. It's like, great,
with
we've already set up
Claw.
a villain,
Yeah.
we've set up the hero, super, let's
just
have
go.
a great story.
And I get why they do origin stories because it's an easy arc.
Yeah.
This guy starts this way, becomes this, fights that guy.
It's a classic
the end.
story.
But I also think with Doctor Strange, it's like which I thought this was really cool. They showed concept art
Yeah.
at the panel, and it looks like, I say, cosmic inception. It
Yeah.
looked so cool. But it's one of those characters that Iron Man was kind of unknown when he
Yeah.
first had the first big movie come out. But Doctor Strange is so weird and quirky, and to get what he can actually do and why he becomes who he is, I feel like you need an origin story there.
But wouldn't it be better if it was more like The Doctor, where he just pops in and he's doing stuff and you kind of are like a companion, you're along the ride trying to figure it out as you go instead of like, he's this guy. Because typically origin stories are also the most boring parts of the character. Like, yeah, okay, we get it.
But how much do you want to see like super arrogant Benedict Cumberbatch being like the best surgeon of all time?
I don't
and
need
then,
to see it because I see it on Sherlock every 2 years.
True.
Raul Hernandez in the chat says Ant-Man better ride Hawkeye's bow in flight, which is a freaking
that would be
cool
awesome.
idea.
Yeah,
I
that
like
is.
that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Oh man, if they had to like send him into like he had to fire an arrow into like a tiny port on something. I'm getting Star Wars right now.
yeah.
But it's like,
No.
what if Ant-Man rode a proton torpedo? I don't know. That would be pretty amazing. But
That would be epic.
yeah,
Really
Doctor
crushing the
Strange.
streams.
I understand why they're going origin story. They're getting more cosmic than they've ever gone before, and I'm sure there's a lot of trepidation on Marvel's part about whether or not an audience is going to get on board with that and with the
actually,
quantum
I'm
realm.
gonna think in the marketing mind of Marvel and Disney, which is cha-ching. Benedict Cumberbatch is one of the biggest stars at the moment. Everyone loves him. This guy can't do anything wrong. Why not milk this?
Yeah.
Origin story. He's a great actor. It's going to be brilliant. You know, I think that this is literally cash cow.
Well, not only that, but it's like even having Scarlet Witch in the movie. I think a lot of my friends who are not comic book fans but Marvel film fans, she's confusing to them. Like,
Well, she's
what are
confusing
her
in the
powers?
comics.
Yeah.
People ask me before the movie, so like, what are Scarlet Witch's powers? She does.
Scarlet Witch's power.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
affects probability, guys. How is
Which
that
doesn't
hard
even
to
make sense because it doesn't even make sense. It's not even a
doesn't.
concept that makes
doesn't
any
make
sense.
sense.
Well,
I
the
kinda
problem with
like
her too is that it's like she's a mutant,
Yeah.
not an
Yeah,
inhuman.
Yeah,
But
I like the basically explanation. Ultron. She's like, she's basically psychic. Cool, good.
Cool.
Let's just move on. I don't care.
Basically, psychic is good enough for me. I think the biggest thing that I've heard from the footage and that's so apparent from the descriptions and that makes me really excited is that it really has that energy of Winter Soldier, which was far more laid back and chill. Like it felt like we were really living with these characters, and like that moment with Ant-Man, for example, like meeting Captain America is like a comedy beat that feels out of place in most of Marvel's canon, but like would work really well with that style.
Yeah.
I just nodded my head when you were saying that Captain America Winter Soldier was chill, and I'm like,
was
it's
like, it
not
had-
chill.
Well, no.
Crashing
I'm talking about the top
helicarriers
of the
and
movie. I'm talking about the top of the movie. You know, like Chris Evans running past
Yeah.
Falcon
Oh,
around
yeah,
the
okay,
lake.
that was
Like
fun.
it felt very grounded and lived in. Like
Yeah.
it felt like the real world.
Go.
Go for it.
Feige was saying that this is really, in a lot of ways, the sequel to Winter Soldier, Captain
Yeah.
America's story.
hope so.
So I feel like that's where, you are getting those smaller moments with Cap and with some of the other Avengers or new people to the team or villains, for that matter, because you get that tiny clip with him and Bucky, and it's like, okay, this really is his story.
Yeah.
I hope it is, because I feel like this movie needs a strong focus, or it will become a mess. Because
Yeah.
there's so much, and
The Avengers syndrome.
Yeah, Captain America: Civil War is my favorite Marvel movie. Not Civil War. Winter Soldier.
Winter
Civil
Soldier,
War is
yeah.
not out yet. Winter Soldier is my favorite one, and I think because for one, it feels different. It's
Yeah.
one of the few Marvel movies that feels different than the rest of them. But even that, it started to feel bloated. Like I don't know if every character in that movie needed a moment in the last action sequence.
Yeah.
And now we're adding 2 Avengers teams.
It's
What
gonna
amounts to
be-
2 Avengers teams. So if the focus is, if the perspective is it's Cap's story and everything else builds to that.
Yeah.
Right on. I'm
Two
stoked.
things. One, there's a comment in the chat I want to read. Matthew Gibbons writes, Ant-Man worked because it's the MCU's first legacy hero. Not entirely sure what he's meaning by that. Maybe
That
just
there was an Ant-Man before this character.
got
He's
it.
not
And
the
it's
first.
establishing that there was
Yeah.
potentially more superheroes back in the day between Captain America, the first Avenger, and everything that's happening in the present.
yeah.
And Doctor Strange works because it's also the introduction of another element to the MCU's universe. I don't think anyone's arguing that. It's just, I think what we're debating is what's the most effective way to tell a good story and do that as well. There's another thing. Umberto Gonzalez from Heroic Hollywood broke a story this week about Civil War that I read an article from Quint over at Ain't It Cool News, and he was like, I don't want to report this story. I don't want to tell you. It's about Spider-Man in Civil War.
Right.
I didn't even click. You sent this link in our
And you didn't
conversation.
click it.
I didn't click it because I don't know if I want to know.
Dude,
I like to go in movies as cold as possible.
okay, well, basically,
Yeah.
we don't have to talk about it here because I do think that everyone has a right to know or not know. But basically, he revealed who Spider-Man fights in Civil War. There's a fight scene between Spider-Man and somebody else.
Can you mouth it to me?
Plug your ears.
Well, he's going to mouth it, so I'm just looking away. I'm waiting for a reaction.
Oh!
From there you go.
Get
All right.
out! No, I wish I didn't know that.
See?
just
That's
So
what I was gonna say.
it's sort of like I don't know if the camera was on me where you could see past my hand for that. So I hope I didn't
But
spoil
here's the
it for
thing.
anybody.
It's almost one of those things where it's like, if you listen to what we were talking about
Yeah.
before.
I know, but it's just sort of like everyone has a right to know or not know,
Yeah.
whatever. But it's definitely exciting. I'm excited for the movie, and I think it's in good hands. I want to move on past Civil War, talking about other stuff.
Quick plug, also we're on Twitter. You can
yeah.
comment live or jump onto Twitter, use the hashtag #SHRoundup.
Yes.
And Matt will, I think at the end, kind of ask a bunch of questions from that.
Yeah, well, I'm also going to throw to you guys, if you write stuff about the news stories that we're talking about, obviously there's a little bit of delay, but I will try to add you into the conversation as much as possible. Before we get into the news, I just want to address a comment from Jack
getting
the Ripper
serious.
10 at the Superior Bad, because it's something that I hear a lot, and I want to talk about it real quick. This is an off-topic question. Do you think they will renew Constantine if the episode of Arrow gets high ratings?
No.
No, they won't. No, they won't. The
Constantine
show's
is
not
gone.
coming back. It was a mediocre show featuring a good character. Hopefully, he gets to join the Arrowverse and then maybe gets used in Legends of Tomorrow or something like that, but we're not getting another Constantine show. It's gone.
Stop trying to make Constantine work, Gretchen.
I feel like there's something where it's like there's potential that if it worked really well in the CW, they have no problem doing more spin-offs.
Sure.
At
Really,
least from what we've
if
seen.
it-
So I wouldn't be surprised if people totally gravitate towards the character, and they're like, let's make
But it
another
has to be
spin-off.
crazy. Like that show would have to get better. That episode would have to get better ratings than the Flash pilot or
Exactly.
something.
Well,
for that
it would have to
response
do
happen.
super well. And also, based on what we saw of a Constantine show, I don't know that we need another Constantine
The
show.
only reason
Do a
you need
Justice
one
League Dark show.
is on FX. If you could put that show on FX,
Yes.
If Supernatural ever went away,
that's a good point. That's the
Constantine
best argument
would
for
totally
Constantine on
take
CW.
that spot.
That's a good argument for. But
and Zatanna would be on it, and I would be Zatanna.
Or a Justice League Dark movie, a Justice
Yeah.
League Dark show,
Justice
which would be really
League
great.
Dark show
Get
would
some
be
Dead Man in there.
ins-
Fuck
Yep.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Some Swamp Thing, maybe, please.
Yes.
Swamp Thing.
Swamp
I just
Thing.
got
Swamp
Swamp
Thing.
Thing.
Oh, we
so
forgot
cool.
to mention Incredibles
Maybe
2 was
Animal Man.
announced.
What?
Incredibles 2 was announced at D23.
Yeah.
Which
Super
is
stoked
just,
about that.
Yeah.
So
and there's
excited.
A new Polynesian princess too.
Moana.
Yeah.
Moana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So getting back to TV DC Universe, it was announced this week that John Diggle has a new super heroic costume for season 4,
Well, we saw the
and it's
cost-
getting a code name.
Yeah, we saw the costume at Comic-Con,
Mm-hmm.
but now they're saying there will be a code name, but we don't know what it is.
Diggle wiggle.
Yeah, he
That
joked.
doesn't sound very intimidating.
It does not.
He
It's
joked
probably gonna
that
be the Guardian.
his code name is Black Driver.
Yeah.
Which yeah, ha ha ha. But
What's funny
we'll-
though is that does sound like it could be a superhero name.
Could.
Yeah.
But of a
could.
white
Black
character.
We were talking about the other day why certain superhero. Why does it have to be a black something like
Well-
Black Manta, Black
Black
Panther?
Panther.
In the comics, and then it's Black Manta's actually black too.
Yeah.
I think there was an issue where Black Lightning explained it to a character in the comics, saying
Oh,
he's like,
need
I
to
was
go
the
back
only
and read
one.
this. Yeah.
I was the only one, so I
Yeah.
wanted to let everybody know I'm black. But
Yeah.
it's really just because they didn't. It's the times. It's the times that they were in.
And now
Well,
they're
I'm like, there's
just the
black
times.
now. There's Black Lanterns and
Yeah.
White Lanterns.
Yeah,
And
but all the Black
that's
Lanterns
based off
are
their
Too
Right.
many
undead.
lanterns.
That's
Too
based
many
off their
lanterns.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I
hopefully
just
now
went
it's
down a
good.
rabbit hole of something totally different. Sorry,
Yeah.
y'all.
You're good.
Speaking of black, looks like Daredevil's costume might be getting more black.
Oh yes,
There was
Daredevil.
a tweet of a costume in a box, followed by a tweet that was taken at a fashion show of what looks like maybe a different costume. It might be a different iteration. Somebody tweeted.
Yeah, it's Giorgio Armani's new fall line.
Yeah.
Is,
Somebody tweeted the costume designer, and she's
Your
like,
man
"Of
points.
course it's not the new costume."
Yeah.
She's like, "Of course it's not the new costume. Season 2 hasn't aired yet." It's like that's a weird response to that. I mean, yeah, it's a leak.
Well, didn't
like, of
we? I
course
mean,
it-
obviously, we had the Daredevil costume for most of the season, where it's just like
Yeah.
him in his
Yeah.
like black
Pajamas.
workout gear with
Yeah.
whatever on his head.
Yeah.
But the last episode, didn't he have a costume on in that
yeah,
one? Like a more
but
official
Please
Yeah.
change it.
costume.
It was-
Please
that
give us
one
a
I
new
heard
one.
was like super fast thrown together.
Yeah.
To
it
have
was
something.
But-
ugly.
Yeah, I honestly I feel like did you watch Daredevil?
Yeah.
The black one was really effective.
Yeah.
Like the sense of movement. I honestly feel
Yeah.
like just flip the color scheme because it was black with the red highlights. Just flip the color scheme, give him the horn helmet, spray paint a double D on his chest, and you're good to go.
I still want a whole episode though that builds to him having a new suit. Like, I know that we all just accept when these superheroes show up in
Yeah.
crazy costumes, but that's why I appreciated the suit he had on
Yeah.
for most of the season, because I'm like, he's just a dude who's going out to fight crime.
Exactly.
It reminds me of when Spider-Man, when he was sitting in his room
Trying to
sewing.
sew.
Oh, yeah.
Hand
Yep.
sewing his suit.
That was my favorite bit because the first time I like fell in love with the movie was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and I love the thing he's coming up with all these designs, whatever, and then there's a pan and he's got the suit. How did you make that? Like, you
yeah.
just go to Home Depot
Hi,
and like.
I
give
was
them,
wondering if you have a really, really strong latex, and if I send you
Really
a design, you can make me a suit and never tell anyone about it if you see it on the
Ever.
news.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that was the other thing that bothered
Yes,
me
that's
about
Peter
Daredevil.
Parker with a P-A-R-K.
The other thing that bothered me with Daredevil is that it was all armored.
Yeah.
Which they established that the cloth they were using, like Kingpin was just wearing it as a shirt.
Yeah.
So it could literally be the same fabric that he had for his other costume, just
Sure.
red and maybe like netted to look stronger or something. And
Yeah,
not
but
have to
DJ
deal.
armor looks cooler and
It
sells
doesn't.
more toys.
It's too much. It's too busy.
Michael's saying, no more red.
No, the red was cool. You got to do red. It's Daredevil.
Yeah.
I
Gotta
want
be
the
a
red.
little
I
red,
want the
little
red.
black.
I
Yeah.
like. Look,
How long
I
did it
like
take
the
Stephen
red.
Amell to get green?
Yeah.
For the green arrow?
That's
Here's
true.
the thing. I think the new costume, if it is the new costume, it looks kind of gross. As long as the show is good, I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care.
It's also such a tiny shot of it that,
No.
like, who knows what it's actually going to look like? Because I mean, I trust what they've done with that show so far.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's also this weird new world where it's like we get tiny photos of things and then it's like, oh, I hate this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if I just showed up to the movie or to the TV show watching and I saw it, would I have the same like visceral reaction to it? I don't know.
Probably not. Well, and the thing is, I originally was bummed that they were doing the black costume so often, but the way it moved then made me bummed with the red costume because it's a lot bulkier.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I actually like the black costume better.
Ego Nowhere in the chat writes, open Daredevil's ear holes and forget the eyes.
Well, I actually like that there's eyes because you don't want to announce to the world that you're blind. Like,
Yeah,
he's running around with that black mask
Yeah.
over his eyes. Like, somebody at some point would be like, how is he?
Yeah.
How do you do it? Oh, wait a second.
Yeah. Well, and it gives away who this guy might be.
Yeah. Let's look
like-
at all the blind people
Yeah.
that are surprisingly functional.
Yeah.
Who have lovely lips.
Yeah.
So we got a tweet here. That's the next story I want to talk about, and it is from Alex Valencia to Alejandro V. What do you guys have any thoughts on George Miller potentially directing Man of Steel 2?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
That
Why
would be great. I
Yeah.
mean, admittedly, the script on his Justice League movie that he was supposed to do back in 2009 was apparently garbage.
Yeah.
But that's not his fault.
Yeah, he also
but
did.
it got shut down, so wouldn't he be like, you know what? I tried to make you a movie and you said no, so now jog on, you know.
I don't know because it's like I don't
Who
think
knows
it was
what the reasoning was.
Yeah, there's a lot going on at the time. Like, wasn't Warner Brothers going through a lot of financial stuff? It was more like it
Superheroes
wasn't.
weren't in then.
Yeah, it wasn't like
Yeah.
a screw you, George Miller. It was more like it's just not happening.
Well, maybe it's him going, oh, I just did Mad Max. Look how well that went. So
Yeah.
can I come back and
Yeah.
you say yes and be yes men now?
Well, I wonder if it was him or if it was just sort of like they were like, please,
Yeah.
please, like
Take
we need
something.
Whatever
like
you
your
want.
movie is 100% like taken in and loved by the fanboys, and we need to love Man of Steel, and they hated Man of Steel. Please do this for us. And he's never really had a shot at a big franchise, or at least like never
Other
one that
than the ones
made
he
it
created.
right.
Yeah.
Never one that
Yeah.
made it to screen. Everything that he's made, with the exception of his segment in the Twilight Zone movie, has been his original creation.
Yeah.
And almost all of them were hits.
Well,
if
and
not
Babe.
all of them. Yeah, Babe
Yeah,
was
Babe.
a huge hit.
I just want to know is Clark going to be as talkative as Max was in Fury Road?
Well,
His accent.
he wasn't very talkative in the first one, so.
Yeah.
I mean-
But it would work. I mean, like that kind of muscular filmmaking. It would. I'd be down.
Yeah.
I'd be down.
I think that it would be awesome, especially somebody who understands how to stage an action scene in a way that doesn't look like a freaking video
Keep
game.
it in the crosshairs.
Yeah, like it would really, really be exciting.
Well, and I think too, even though he is known for doing all that massive stuff, he also did like Happy Feet,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is
so strange. And
a
I'm like,
wonderful
I feel like
movie.
it
Yeah.
also kind of brings in the fact that with a character like Superman,
Yeah.
there is this like childish like love and innocence about him.
Or there should
and
be
about
Man
the
of Steel.
world. Yeah. Which I mean, I think there were moments of it, and I
Yeah.
wish we'd seen more of it. Like all the stuff when he was working in the restaurant and the bar, where I was like, I just wanted to see more of that stuff and like
No.
really love him as Clark, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like George could do something really cool where it's a balance of both of those things, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
You know, guys, I'm a Marvel fan girl, and I do prefer the Marvel movies. But the thing that the studio at Disney are doing, which is actually causing problems, is locking creations and creativity down. Like, you know, we've heard with Josh Trank where it was like, this was my vision. We heard from Edgar Wright, this was my vision. And the studio comes in and goes, change it.
Yeah.
I think that Dr. George Miller is in a position at the moment where whatever he touches turns to gold. So they will go, do what you want, and the studio will not interfere.
And I'm also more hopeful with the DC movies as there seems to be a little bit more of like, fuck it, do it.
Yeah.
You know, that
Yeah.
kind of attitude. And it's,
Want to get
yes,
Batman?
please.
It's just
Batfleck?
sort of like
Yeah.
we're making
You
these
wanna
movies
you wanna
anyway.
put jokers and fucking tattoos? I mean, we've seen a dozen of them. Go for it. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Well,
And it's like, I
just-
like that. Go for it.
Yeah. No, there's a ballsiness that I feel like Marvel doesn't really have movie to movie.
Yeah.
And what I like most about George Miller as a director is that he is somebody who, as you guys were saying, understands tone very, very well. And I feel like that was the biggest deal. Like, I can forgive all the little moments in Man of Steel that maybe added up to something that was mediocre or not satisfying, but the biggest issue is one of tone. It wasn't hopeful. And a Superman movie, ultimately, Superman is a symbol of hope. And I feel like you need to have that, especially if you're He does. The S stands for hope, guys. Not lame. I actually
So,
like that part.
What?
But that's just me. So speaking of Fantastic Four, one last thing that came out this week that I thought was really fascinating was on Birth Movie's Death, Devin Faraci talked about the earliest draft of the Fantastic Four movie and how different it was. And the original take on it sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it sounds really
coulda,
cool.
woulda.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. Mole Man's in it. Galactus is in it. The only thing, it seems like a lot.
A lot of stuff.
And the only thing that still seems iffy is I don't know why everybody needs to make Dr. Doom so complicated. He's a tendril of antimatter. But other than that, everything seems great.
Yeah. Lots of interplay between the team early on in the movie. A great action scene in the middle of the movie, fighting a moloid in the middle of New York.
Which is the iconic first cover Fantastic Four that I would love to see in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer, and it also kind of reopens that question that we don't have time to delve into too deeply here about, what was Josh Trank's role and the studio's role and what we finally got. Because it seems like this story that he originally received, the first script, is at odds with the pitch that he gave to fans and to the collective audience when he first signed on to the movie 2.5 years ago.
Can I throw out a theory?
Sure.
Reading all that stuff. If you hear the description of the script, it will cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think the studio's like, this is great. Let's throw a few more hallways in there, a few more warehouses. Take the budget down. And then Trank came in, cool, I can make that happen. And they were doing that, and then they saw Trank's movie, and they're like, oh shit, let's do even less. Because that's the one feeling you get from watching the movie. It's just a lot. It looks like a high-budget episode of Doctor Who, where they're just running through hallways the entire time.
Yes.
Well, and I think
Lots of corridors.
It's one of those weird things that, again, with the times where it's like, we didn't hear about who was directing something so far out as we do now. We didn't hear about these backstories, about rewrites, about somebody coming in to polish a script like we do now because we're so plugged into it. So it's like, there's no way to know really if what happened with Fantastic Four is similar to things that have happened on tons of other movies. We just haven't seen the whole process along the way. And I think it reveals that there is an art of being a director that can fit into an already created world and work within a massive corporation like Colin Trevorrow, where it's like he did Jurassic World and I liked it. I know a lot of people were like about it, but I'm like, I think he did a great job of
it's a very fun
being
movie.
true to Jurassic Park, but also putting his own stamp on it and fitting into this world and making a lot of money, which is what those companies want.
Yes.
And he's somebody who's still so early in his career that he's only going to continue to grow as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he got so much of that movie correct. The one thing that's a little wonky is what George Miller does right. George Miller understands tone. Yeah. And I feel like tonally, Jurassic World kind of loops from different tones.
It's basically a cartoon until it decides to be a horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
both
when
are
you tossed
really
around
rough. Yeah,
by that one.
exactly.
But it's just
you go from a scene where they shoot a pterodactyl on a helicopter and they're like, to a woman being tortured by a giant pterodactyl.
Yeah. It's just kind of a few more years under your belt, you learn how to smooth over those moments a little bit better. Jim McCann in the chat writes, Fantastic Four, the bad Incredibles, which I appreciate. And
my stance on Colin Trevorrow is it's like he's nailed Jurassic World. It did so well. It
Made all the money.
all expectations that
All the money.
now that
Every
he's in
money.
the Star Wars franchise, all I want to say to him is, great kid, don't get cocky.
But the thing that I think is good with him is that he does go back and forth because what is it, the Book of Henry?
Yeah.
That he's doing next, where he is that director that's like, I'm going to do this big budget film, but then I'm also going to do something that's indie and small and
that'll
just
hone
really
his
focuses
craft.
on acting.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go back to this other thing. And that to me, when you hear that he's going to direct Episode 9 of Star Wars, I'm like, he's going to be able to really get the human or the not human because they're not all humans, the
Almost like Rogue One.
interpersonal relations of all the characters, but then also have really cool action sequences too.
All right, real quick before we move into our Marvel versus Star Wars debate, which, if you have yet to vote in our poll, we've got it running. And right now, oh man, Marvel is running away with this victory. So if you want to support Team Star, it's bigger than it was before. But yeah, go to that poll. It's in the description of the video. We got a tweet here from Easy Network at the Easy Network. What do you think of the Mockingbird pilot? And do you think it could be incorporated as an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before spinning off?
Can I just say that is the best title they've come up with? Marvel's Most Wanted.
Love it.
That's a great title.
Yeah.
I also love the wording, guys, guess what? I know it's characters leaving one series to go to a new series and following their adventures, but it's not a spin-off.
Well, no, but they're not leaving the series.
That's not the report I'm hearing. I'm
No.
hearing they're leaving the series.
The report, everything that I've read says that they are not calling it a spin-off because they will still be on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Isn't that kind of dumb, though?
It is incredibly dumb. Unless, of course, like, first of all, these actors are going to be so crazy overworked. But what I think it may be, or what may be the smart play for me, is since these are people who have such an intense history together, full of betrayal and double crossing and romance and sex, you go prequel. You go prequel, and you have them be mercs within the Marvel universe, pre-Fall of S.H.I.E.L.D., pre-Hydra, and you get to see all of this.
Squad.
It's basically Suicide Squad.
I'd like to see
on TV.
I'd like them to see develop Hunter more, because I can't help when I watch that show but wish he was Hawkeye.
Yeah,
because I don't really like Hawkeye in the movies.
Well,
and I'd like him better in the, because he's not Hawkeye.
You.
The Hawkeye in the movies is a cool character, but he's not the Hawkeye I know.
Not all Hawkeyes.
I think it's interesting because I hate to do like DC versus Marvel, but DC does such a good job with television.
Amen.
And Marvel is trying to figure it out
I
still.
agree. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need. They already did a like period piece with Agent Carter where it's like a spin-off of S.H.I.E.L.D. where it's like, okay, do I need another one that's like a prequel to the show that I'm. I mean, are there a lot of people watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Like,
yeah, well, and
I feel like there were a lot of people that were not so happy with it. So I'm like, taking
the audience only shrank last year, even though the show got better.
I'm also wondering. I'm
I
also
got so
wondering
into it last
if
season.
with Secret Warriors, if they're going to add a bunch of new characters, and so they're going to give Mockingbird and Lance their own spot. But I was kind of hoping that the next pilot they announced would be like a Runaways. Do something different. Just give us something different.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that Brooke question, which was in the chat, because it was really, really clever. Basically, she was saying that everyone kind of loves the Marvel movies, but they like DC villains. So what she wants to know, how we think that Suicide Squad will hold up against all of these upcoming Marvel movies.
I think it's a complicated question because people do love their DC villains. There's only one of them that I feel like people recognize in it, and he's not even one of the members of the Suicide Squad.
Harley Quinn, though. Harley Quinn, though, is
Harley
amped up
Quinn,
as Joker in that movie.
But we're talking about a character that comic book fans know and people who watch the animated series know. But beyond that,
no, I think she's got a pretty big pop culture.
Yeah.
Do you really think
presence.
so?
She's
I'm
probably
shockingly
one of the most cosplayed characters.
Yeah,
I feel
she's
like
got a
that.
shockingly
Someone that hasn't
big
had a lot of
presence.
mainstream kind of, she hasn't really.
This is her first movie.
Exactly.
First movie, yeah.
But and because of that, like the fact that the average person would know who Harley Quinn is. Like that speaks for itself.
Well, and
It's
the
kind of like
fact that she's
Deadpool. Like
created
he's
from the
shockingly
animated.
popular.
Just, I mean, that's something interesting in itself where it's like she was created on Batman the Animated Series, not in comics. That was the first time people saw her. So I think it has a different impact on pop culture because of the fact that it wasn't straight up from the comics.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say the beauty of that movie is it is unlike anything else coming out in the superhero world. And since superhero movies we're now, let's say Iron Man was 2008. So we've been doing this dance now effectively for 7 years.
Yeah.
A decade since Batman Begins, which effectively kicked off the second chapter of superhero movies. So to have something different in this marketplace that's stuffed full of crap, good crap and bad crap, is definitely in their favor. So I'm very curious to see how it does.
Do you guys think if Deadpool blows up, if Suicide Squad might be R?
Ooh.
I don't know that they would change stuff now.
They might.
mean,
It might be dark enough that they could. I
didn't get a dark sense from the little bit that we've seen. It didn't seem super morbid.
I don't know. It looked like Joker was going to torture Harley Quinn electroshock therapy style on the table. Like I could go either way with the ratings board.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a chance moving forward that they would do something like that. But I think it's also character based, where it's like Deadpool's always been that type of a character. Yes, there have been some like incredibly violent things that have happened, like with the Joker, the Killing Joke, whatever it is. But I think it has to lend itself well to the character because I don't want to see R-rated stuff just because of the fact that like,
just for shock value.
Deadpool did so well, let's make it R-rated.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw like the Wolverine where it was like PG-13 movie.
I would love
R-rated
to see Old
Blu-ray.
Man Logan as rated R. I would love that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, DC does have a stronger grasp on their villains. And so that's why it's like, what was it? Last year they did that whole month of just villains comics. They just did one-offs. And I went and bought every single one because I was so excited to get all those stories. So
Which one's the best one?
Oh, God.
I'm trying to remember Villains Month.
I actually liked, there was a Black Manta one that I really, really liked and thought was Cheetah was really cool. But a lot of these are characters that you've never really gotten their origin story. And I think, it's obvious when The Killing Joke is probably one of the most gone to as like a Joker origin story.
And one of the most influential villain stories ever told.
Yeah.
I would recommend, if you enjoyed that, checking out Brian Azzarello's Joker.
Yes,
a very good
that,
one too.
and
Just throwing it out
also
there.
Penguin, Pain and Prejudice.
I heard very good things about that. I didn't check it out, but I heard
Holy
very
moly,
good things.
great. It's great.
I heard very good things.
Real quick before we go to our question of the day, we got a few people in the chat real quick. So Amazed by Grace 95 says they should just make Suicide Squad R and be done with it. Queen Bee says Suicide Squad should be rated R. It makes more sense.
Wow.
Could be. We'll wait and see what happens. Joseph Alon and Joe Alonzi on Twitter writes, what do
great.
you think about Ronda Rousey wanting to be Captain Marvel? Let's
that
just
sucks.
real quick hits, because this is,
Yeah.
if anyone can want to be anything. Common has been campaigning to be Jon Stewart for years. Doesn't mean it's going to
Common
happen.
was gonna
Not
be-
Common. Tyrese.
Oh, Tyrese Gibson.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought, wasn't...
Common was
I feel
supposed to
like
be Green
Common was-
Lantern in the George Miller's Justice League.
George
Yeah,
Miller's
yeah,
Justice
yeah,
League,
yeah.
which I
campaigning
still
for.
think would have been great cast.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't. She's not.
What has
she's
she been in lately?
fine.
She was in The Expendables?
She was in.
She was in
Fast
Entourage.
and Furious
Fast and
7.
Furious.
Entourage.
Yeah.
I think she's good
Playing
at playing herself.
She's good at
She
being
is playing
stunted.
herself in her upcoming biopic about
Yeah.
herself.
Everything I've seen, she's probably the fighter of our century.
Yeah.
For
but
sure.
I don't
Maybe that's what she's going to do. Give me
Yeah.
the role or I will
beat
F you
shit
up.
out of you.
I will watch her do anything. I think she's the most incredible person, incredible athlete.
I've never
I don't
seen
know
anyone
if
so
she's an actress.
determined.
Yeah.
No, but she's the kind of person, if she puts her mind to it, she will try and try and try until she's a good actress.
Maybe.
So help
I think I'd
you.
go.
No, I was just going to be like, so help you. Like, if you're the if you're the
I don't know.
acting teacher.
I'm all kinds of cloudy on it because I just have like just a massive crush on her. She is like the.
Do you get a Rousey?
Do I get a Rousey?
Oh,
Pretty
God.
much.
How often have you rolled that one out?
Oh, man.
That was the
That's
first time.
the first
Oh,
time for you?
man.
Yeah.
It won't be
Oh
the
man,
last.
she's just so impressive to me.
She is incredible. I that to me, it's a hard one. I mean, somebody like Katie Sackhoff makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
in that
I
role.
You know
would
what,
agree
though?
with
Team
that.
Starbuck. Whoa.
Yeah,
Oh,
where
so good.
I would need to see Ronda Rousey do some more stuff before I could say
Yeah.
on board.
Well, we got the smelly cat jazz, saying, can Rhonda act? She can do her own stunts. That's a big part of it.
That's a big part of it.
Din-din.
Although
No, Ronda,
for somebody who flies and has super strength, it's not going to matter super too
Yeah,
much.
she should be like,
Ooh,
you know
you
what?
say
Let's
that.
cast her to play Iron Fist.
Don't you, Supergirl. I'm sorry, the choreography in that.
Hey,
Oh,
hey, I like
garbage.
Supergirl. All right.
All right. It is time to talk about our question of the day, which is, which franchise is doing better hype-wise as of right now, Marvel or Star Wars? And we put a poll on pollmaker.com, and the current results are Marvel 802 to Star Wars 666,
66.
number
That's
of the beast,
Bad
55%
number.
to 45%.
And I also don't necessarily think for our conversation, it's necessarily hype-wise, although Star Wars did get a lot more hype at D23, but just in general, who do we think's doing better?
Yeah.
Or is better?
Is better. Full stop. Is better.
Is
Ooh,
better.
All right. Star
There you
Wars.
go. Who is better?
But it's not who's better because we haven't seen a new Star Wars.
And we
film
haven't
in
seen
a
a new
while.
good Star Wars film since 1983.
Well, we can all agree that the best Star Wars movie is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the... No.
Star Wars Episode 3, Attack of the Clothes.
Oh,
Yeah, right?
God.
Yeah. I'm going to pull the poll up for you guys to see. I'm so sorry.
So, Maud, obviously, you are a Star Wars...
Yeah. I think.
Fan, you could
how
say.
come Star Wars is better? A number of reasons. The superhero franchise. I mean, that's all great that everyone's got superpowers, but there's just so much of it. It's just so bloated. Marvel has gotten to a point where it's just like the amount of heroes and villains and who's in doing what, and then you've got mutants, and then you've got Inhumans, and then it's just too much. And for someone who's just a new fan trying to kind of step into that world, it's really quite confronting. I think that with Star Wars, you have a solid foundation, and that's what Disney is doing going ahead now. They're stripping back all that the expanded universe, and they're going with it. Why have you got the giggles?
Why are you laughing already?
I'm laughing at Jay Hibro in the chat. Says
Illuminati
666 votes. George Lucas is Satan. Illuminati confirmed.
Oh, that's quite funny.
And, you know, it's actually interesting because what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but I actually wish Star Wars would pick up more, shake it up a little bit more.
Like
it
going
bums
Old
me out.
Republic.
Like, it bums me out that all the spin-offs are like within the same, like between Episode 3 and Episode 4. Like, it's a galaxy far, far away. Do it 1,000 years before. Do it 1,000 years after. Do it on a planet we've never been to with characters we don't even know about.
Yeah, wasn't there
But I
some
think we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I think that's...
Will we?
and-
Because you're talking about a Star Wars movie a year. Don't you think people will burn out of it?
But there's
eventually?
already, like, if you just watch Rebels, there's characters in there that we've never met before,
Yeah.
obviously, that have ties to characters that we'll get to know, but it's
you're
like
worried about a movie coming out a year? Sorry, love.
No.
With Marvel. Are you kidding?
But that's
Whoa,
the thing.
Iron Man.
It's the
Oh,
same
And that's
thing.
the other thing.
Two movies a year with
two
Marvel.
movies a year. I was just looking at the thing. Again, I feel like Star Wars is taking too much off of Marvel because Marvel plays it safe. Like you've got all this stuff and everything's the same tone. Like they're saying Doctor Strange is our horror movie. The same way Guardians of the Galaxy is your sci-fi movie. The tone is exactly the same as every other movie.
So
But
what
you're
you're
on Team
saying
Star
is
Wars.
Star Wars is winning.
I mean, they're both owned by Disney, and I feel like they're taking a similar tack. Although I will say, Star Wars is killing it in the casting department. In Rogue One, they announced that Mads Mikkelsen is going to be in it.
Freaking Donnie Yen is
probably
going to
be the bad guy.
And
let's be
Alan
honest.
Tudyk.
And then even in Force Awakens, you got Max von Sydow.
Yeah.
You've got Oscar Isaac. Who,
Yeah,
by the
he's
way,
gonna be
if
so
you haven't
great.
seen Show Me a Hero on HBO,
Oh my
it's
God,
very
it's
important.
so
It's not just good; it's like important.
I think Ex Machina. You've got
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac
Yeah.
and
Oh
Donald.
my God!
Yeah.
the
I'm
scene where
tearing
he's
up the dance
dancing.
floor.
Yeah. All right. So when we were about to go on and do this show, I was prepared to go full Marvel. But the more that I think about it and how my opinion of Star Wars has changed in the last year alone, based on just casting, commentary from the executives and creative people involved, who they've signed, and the footage, I gotta say, Star Wars has really turned it around the last year. A year ago, like when they announced it,
We Jedi mind tricked you all before we started this show.
when they announced it, I could not have been more apathetic. I'm like, screw you.
Yeah.
Really?
Screw you. There is no way, like there is no way I can't get my hopes up again. You can't make me think about this franchise anymore. Please don't. And then now it's easily my most anticipated movie. Easily, far and away, and I cannot wait to see and I can't wait to see what Rian Johnson does with Episode 8, almost more than what I want to see with Episode 7. My one qualm is that it really seems like they are slavishly trying to achieve the tone of Episodes 4, 5, and 6.
That's exactly what they're doing.
With their director choices, which, I mean, I feel a little bad for Colin Trevorrow for being their Richard Marquand. But that's a bit of a bummer. And then, look, Marvel, they really need to figure out how to smoothly grow this huge thing that they've built. It's really impressive that they've done it, but it is now at a size that it's unwieldy. Like, imagine
Especially
a Jenga
since
tower.
everything needs to tie into in my opinion, Doctor Strange doesn't need to tie into shit.
No,
There's freedom there.
Imagine the whole MCU as a Jenga tower, and every movie, every storyline that they do is them pulling out one of those blocks
back on top.
and putting it back on top. And now it's getting to this place where it's real unwieldy, and they have to really dial in their choices. We can't be vague about shit anymore.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's where it's like Marvel has become this gigantic machine that's moving and growing in itself. They almost don't even have to promote their movies. I mean, it's the fact that they didn't do anything at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
That's crazy
Says
talk.
everything.
I do
That's
see
crazy
the
talk.
Comic-Con and the D23 is kind of a slap in the face to comic fans, but
Well, I think
Yeah,
I think it's just though that they don't really need to be promoting it in that way, and that's where I think Star Wars stands out right now, because it's like we need to come up with a new game plan to promote and market and get people excited about it. People who don't know about it, where it's like we're doing
Do
the
those
journey
people
to the
exist?
Force Awakens.
And you know what they're doing for that? There's 20 books coming out
Yeah.
up until December. They've got a show for the kids that kind of re-educates them about the original trilogy in a way that they can learn and about the movies that they weren't alive for. They are making sure every single person, whether you're a fan or you've never heard of it, will be up to date and on speed by the time December rolls around.
I mean, the fact that, like, if we'd talked about this a while ago and been like, CoverGirl's going to do a whole line of stormtroopers and droid makeup. Like, what?
Yay.
It's everywhere. But, I mean, you say yay like that, and I'm like, yes!
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, there's a whole new audience of people that are going to be just shopping or
Do they
buying
have
Vans
R2D2
or whatever
blue?
it is. I don't know what the actual colors are.
Okay. I'm just saying it's a missed opportunity if they have.
if they haven't figured it out.
Yeah, it's funny, because I've actually been rewatching the original trilogy this week for the first time in I think 3 years. Because
I was just rewatching them the first time in like 15.
yeah,
What?
Yeah.
I don't listen. I'm actually ambivalent to Star Wars because I think maybe the prequels came out early. I like the idea of Star Wars more than the actual product. I will defend Empire Strikes Back as just a solid, good movie. Like it's just as far as movies go, great movie.
Great movie.
Everything else, fine. It's fine. Like it's not. I'm not over the moon about it. I am ambivalent.
Yeah.
But I also am kind of like, I think to me the secret of the excitement for Star Wars: The Force Awakens is BB-8 because it's real. Like the second you see the real one, you're like,
practical
oh, what?
effects.
Yeah.
And then Oscar Isaac.
Yep.
And then John Boyega, who, if you haven't seen him in Attack the Block, you're crazy because Attack the Block is amazing.
Go watch Attack the Block, you dummies.
And every time I see John Boyega's face, I'm like, I'm seeing this movie.
Yeah.
I'm just going to.
Yeah, because
It's
we've
just
been
gonna
waiting
happen.
for him to have a star vehicle ever since.
Yeah.
He to have that much charisma and then to be just not used for years is crazy. But that's the problem with being a talented black actor in this industry.
But I think
there aren't parts.
the ambivalence towards Star Wars comes from this idea that you're presented with a world that has infinite possibilities, but then the possibilities end up being very finite. Like Star Wars Episode 2, you're going to see a bunch of Jedi. They're going to fight. I'm amped. I'm going to see all these different colored lightsabers and all this stuff, and they all bust them out, and it's all the same 2 colors.
That is
And
not
true.
There
Every
is
time,
red, there is blue,
but also
there's
the good guys, and there's
green.
purple. There's one purple. But rewatching the movies, I kind of realized that like the best part, one, you need a Han Solo. The prequels didn't have that. You need somebody that's going to take the piss out of it a little bit.
There was no comic relief. In fact, it was R2-D2 in like episode 3 that was the comic relief, and that says something. And I'm not going to mention Jar Jar Binks. I'm not going to say it. I'm not gonna say it.
And I think the bad guys are the most interesting. Darth Vader, Darth Maul, Han Solo was most interesting when he's on the fence. Boba Fett.
This is how I win the argument: who's better, Marvel or Star Wars? Put the strongest Marvel character up against the strongest Star Wars character.
In the
Who
movies,
would win?
or in
movies.
general. In the movies, of course, Star Wars wins. If you're talking about in general, if you're talking about
Well,
in general,
well, hold on.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Who are we saying?
The Hulk versus Vader.
strongest strength-wise or strongest
That's
character-wise?
Strength-wise.
Yeah, Hulk would murder.
Hulk
Darth
would
Vader.
murder him.
Hulk would murder Darth Vader.
Yes, he would.
Hulk is strongest there is.
Yeah.
Vader has the Force.
But
Yes,
No, but the Force is a glorified magic trick.
Could Hulk though like manage his mind like to be able to actually
You
run
know what?
into Vader?
If you've noticed, the characters that are immune to the Force are always the dumbest characters. The Hulk would probably be completely immune to the Force.
Yeah. Also,
That's maybe
we've
true.
never seen Darth Vader move anything of a massive size. He flings shit, but he
Will, if
doesn't
you
fling.
watch Rebels, you did see him
Okay,
with
that's
a
true.
pretty massive thing
And
up,
he is pretty impressive in
easily.
Empire. when
Yeah,
he's
I
throwing
guess he would
stuff
just
at
have to
it.
throw him into space, and maybe Hulk can't breathe in space. We got a couple questions here that I want to address.
This one I'm actually addressing in my canon video coming up for Star Wars 101.
Which should be next Saturday,
There
right?
was another one in there that was. They mentioned Marvel, but it's applicable to Star Wars as well. Are these franchises so big that they cannot fail?
No, that is not true.
Here's the thing, especially with superhero movies, I've compared it a lot before to Westerns, which is one of my. I love Westerns. I love Westerns
There's
a lot.
not enough.
But not now. And you know why? Because there was a bunch, and they were all pretty much the same, and people got burnt out. And
Yeah.
so that's why I'm saying Marvel, Star Wars, diversify, because maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but about 10 years from now, that well will dry up. So you need to diversify.
There was a comment in this chat, and I don't remember who made it. I think their first name was Fiacra. And it was, how can you guys be excited about Star Wars when Deadpool is coming out?
my God.
Shame on you. I mean, like, look, I'm excited for Deadpool. I don't understand why more people aren't really excited for
'Cause
Deadpool.
the
But if
trailer
you're more excited for Deadpool than you are for Star Wars Episode 7, you are high, and I want some of what you're smoking because, goddamn, you are off base.
Let me ask you
Why
this:
do I have to choose? Why do I have to like balance my levels of excitement?
Tiffany,
I'm excited
you
for
have
them.
to choose.
I want them all.
Because we live in the real world, Tiffany. You have to choose.
you can't
or
watch
die.
both.
Nerdy News would like to know who would win, Hulk or Sneaky Pete?
Sneaky Pete, no
Sneaky
no
Pete,
contest.
obviously. You
He's
sneak
sneaky.
right up
Coming.
on him.
He's so sneaky.
He's so sneaky.
He's so sneaky. Well, and the benefit,
Oh, wow.
Tiffany,
That's
that
really
you don't.
entertained by
I mean, no matter what you choose, Disney wins.
It's true.
Yeah.
The moral of
wins.
the story is that Disney is winning.
It's like
Because-
Alien versus Predator. Whoever wins, we lose.
And I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's like Marvel versus Star Wars. DC.
Yeah, you want DC to win.
I like DC more.
Yeah.
I gravitate towards more. There's Marvel characters I like a lot, and just more of a DC guy.
I also think that it's this thing of there's like a wave that's coming for DC as well with the films where it's like we haven't seen it all yet. So
Yep.
it's like there's a built-in excitement. The same thing with Star Wars where it's like we're at the top of the wave. The movies haven't come out yet, which is why the excitement level is so
Yeah.
much greater. When stuff comes out and then it's awesome, I'm going to still be as excited.
Yeah.
there's a chance that stuff might come out and it's a little okay.
Yeah.
I think in this instance, sorry, we've got not flavors of the month, but flavors of the years. And I think that we've had, like, Marvel had their influx. And like we've said, since 2008, we've been riding the Marvel wave. And it was so great.
Yeah.
And then their big movies with Joss Whedon wasn't kind of blowing our faces off the way that they thought it would. And now I think that it's like, all right, well, that was fun. What's next?
Yep.
Shiny new pretty thing. And it's going to be Star Wars. And then, I don't know, I think Star Wars and DC are going to be around that same time. So that's actually probably more of a debate. Marvel and Star Wars, Disney wins. That's a win-win for them.
Yep.
Where is DC going to play in all of this?
Here's the thing. I really want to believe all the things that we've been hearing about these test screenings going extremely well for Batman versus Superman. I want that movie to be so amazing that it collectively bitch slaps all of us into submission, that the whole world shuts down for a week because so many of us have been collectively bitch slapped and need to recover. That's how good I want this movie to be. If it's not good, then it honestly, it doesn't make much of a ripple in that. I think that's the big problem. If that movie doesn't open, they've got all these other movies in production. I don't know how far down the rabbit hole they can go.
I feel you look like
I want Tiffany to answer this.
I will just say this out of the gate. Yes, I work for DC All Access. I don't know anything about like any secret stuff coming out. I know everyone thinks like if you work with them, you do.
We're
but
going to talk
I was
to you
hoping
about
on
all
set
the
every day.
But I do think it's one of those things where I remember when I saw the footage, like the teaser trailer stuff from Batman v Superman, I was like, oh my God, now we saw Ben Affleck and he has the suit on and he looks up and he's Bruce Wayne. And then I totally believe that he realizes he has to be Batman and he doesn't want to be Batman. And I'm so excited. So for me, it was those moments of seeing this new actor playing Bruce Wayne and Batman, and I'm on board
You
for it.
totally just connected a plot point that I hadn't even thought about, which is that he had hung up the suit and he was not being Batman anymore, and he feels like he has to be Batman because there is a
The
Superman.
tie running into the
You're
damage.
absolutely right. God
Yeah.
damn.
I think if Batman v Superman,
Matt will need a moment.
If Batman v Superman doesn't do well, I do think it'd actually be more interesting. As much as I love Superman and I want him to be in everything, I think because with Suicide Squad you have like B to C listers, and honestly I feel like DC might find some real success there with like.
Well, Tom Hardy dropped out of the project. Would that have been a completely different story if he was still in there?
I don't know.
I thought that happened because of 100 Bullets.
Yeah, I think so
That
too.
there
Because
was
he was
stuff
talking
where
around
it
the
was
same time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to
But
ask
yeah, I
you
think it'll be
guys.
C-listers. I think you'll get Swamp Thing movies, you'll get Justice League Dark. Like if Suicide Squad blows up, DC will dive into its B
it's
and C
edgier
string.
properties.
Yeah.
I want to address this comment here. Steve Dude writes, Marvel equals character motivated, DC equals plot motivated. Do you think that that's a
In
fair
the
assessment?
Movies? Well, one,
In
in
movies.
this new connected thing, you only have the one. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, and I do think it's interesting that we get from, and who knows if this was planned or not, I think it was, but when we saw Man of Steel and a lot of people's hesitation was, oh my God, he like destroys the whole city. That's not the Superman that I know. He would never kill people.
Yeah.
And now you see that it's, okay, well, Batman, Bruce Wayne, saw that go down.
Yeah.
And that's
There
what
are
kind of kicks
consequences.
off everything for the next film. And so for me, I was like, that is a really connective story, because when I think about like what I loved about Chronicle even was I was like, this is somebody who just realized they got powers. What would you actually do?
Yeah.
And in that situation with Superman and Clark Kent, you're like, he's just figuring it out. He doesn't know who Superman really is yet. And sometimes you have to make those mistakes to really become the hero that everybody is used to seeing. And I feel like I just wrote a page out of a comic.
Right? That was great. That was beautiful.
One of the things I like most about Jeff Jones' Batman Earth 1
Yeah.
is that Batman's not super Batman yet.
Yeah.
Like he's making mistakes and he's fucking up, and it makes him a lot more interesting.
Yep.
So, man.
I think the biggest difference between the Marvel and the DC thing, and yes, you're saying these are real events, there are repercussions, and I do like that. I noticed in Marvel it's about keeping the civilians safe. That was always a big priority, which is kind of like DC going, yeah, what if you don't? And using that. But I think that the biggest difference you're going to find is the tone. I don't know necessarily if it's character versus plot. It's just the tone of the movie. And one of them is more grim and dark. And, you know, you do have to own up to your responsibilities and, like, the consequences of all of that. Whereas Marvel is just like, happy ending, reset.
Yeah, which is interesting because Marvel actually kind of kifed DC's act. Because normally in the comics, the Marvel characters are the more bitchy and whiny and dark and like dealing with depressing shit. And the DC ones are the big damn heroes. They come in, they save the day. Like Iron Man's alcoholism, out. Ant-Man abusing his wife, out. Hulk being abused by his dad, out. Like all the I'll bet you Spider-Man in his new movie will have a lot less drama to deal with because it's more like quippy jokes. We come in, we save the day. Like this is our thing. And now DC's like, we're dark.
I'm sorry. Iron Man's alcoholism was not out. It made watching Iron Man 2 even more of a chore than it already was.
No, I mean, it wasn't really dealt with.
Yeah. Oh no, they didn't deal with it. They tried. They dealt a glancing blow against it, and
that's,
it sucked.
I think has a lot to do with who was playing the actor as well. There's a very blurred line between Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man.
All right. Before we wrap up, because we are running out of time, I do want to read some of these tweets about our question of the day.
Yeah. And keep voting really quickly because you've got 60 more seconds.
You got 60 more seconds.
Right
Maybe you can pull this out.
There's
Star
only a
Wars.
10% difference between Star Wars and Marvel.
Yeah.
There's only a 10% difference.
Star Wars just gained.
Lightsabers.
9% difference.
Let's see. All right, so Niklaus Mikkelsen at Designed by Klaus says, I feel like the only thing Star Wars is banking off of is nostalgia and casting. I don't think that's necessarily true. Darth Cash at JCash10 says, Hulk's angry. Anger leads to hatred. Hatred leads to the dark side. Darth Vader wouldn't fight. He'd make him Darth Hulk.
Which would be awesome.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was great.
That person needs a high five.
And followed by Brian Asari at Brian Asari says, in all caps, Hulk would get wrecked by Vader. Rami Atasi at Rami Atasi 27 says, can we look at DC versus Marvel then just see who wins versus Star Wars? Because I think DC is greater than Marvel and Star Wars is greater than DC at the moment.
Okay, so with the Hulk and Darth Vader battle, wait, how can we win this? I have an argument which is in my head which has to do with Bruce Banner being a scientist and midichlorians are now science and there's got to be something.
No, let's leave midichlorians out of it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to bring
We don't
midichlorians
talk about
to this.
those.
Yeah, we just want to
I know
let
you
that
like
be.
to. Maud loves talking about them.
Hey,
We were all having nice fun in our little sci-fi wizard story, and then you had to go introduce midichlorians to it.
Because science.
Yeah.
Sage Holst at Sage and Bloom writes, I'd have to go Star Wars because the excitement I feel just by hearing the name. The joy Marvel gives me hasn't reached that level yet.
I cried watching the trailer for Force Awakens the first time and the second trailer. Because you were saying that your DC reaction.
Yeah.
What was more powerful for you? Because you're a DC and Star Wars fan.
I was going to compare it to when I first saw Avengers stuff. Because that's where I think it's that we're at the top of this wave. When I first saw Avengers footage, I was like, oh my God. It's like how I feel about seeing new Star Wars stuff now. And with Batman v Superman, it's like, we're going to see them fight. Like, they're going to fight each other. How cool is that?
So that's more extreme for the DC than it was Star Wars.
No, that actually, at Comic-Con, those were the two things I shed tears about. Those two moments. I mean, seeing the behind-the-scenes footage from Star Wars and Batman v Superman, where I'm like, I can't, I really can't.
To the both of you, what if Force Awakens sucks?
It won't.
But what if? What will happen?
No.
I'm saying, what will happen?
DJ, don't manifest this, please.
No, I'm just wondering because remember the excitement for Episode 1. That's all I'm saying.
I was so clouded for that. I didn't know for ages that it wasn't a great movie.
Yeah, that was when I was young enough that I wasn't able to articulate it, but there was that feeling deep down in your side, like maybe that sucked.
That wasn't
Episode 1
a funny
was
you're in a
like
bad
my
relationship
sick day
when you
movie
won't
when
tell
I was a
yourself.
kid.
Yeah,
You're like, we can make this work. We can totally make this work.
Yeah.
I love you. I forgive you.
2 more tweets, and then we're gonna wrap this episode up. These are both from Nick at Nick with 2 Ks. Talking movies, Star Wars. Star Wars is 3 for 6. Marvel is 6 for 11, maybe. None of which are as good as the original trilogy.
But that's
Marvel. That's very
subjective.
biased.
Yeah.
Marvel has a large output and have more opportunities to make good movies. Episodes 1 through 3 suck. That is all.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you want to tweet at us with your own mathematics, if you want to approach it from a mathematical standpoint, you can totally do that either at our Twitter handles or with the hashtag SHRoundup.
Let me do my poll list real quick.
Do your poll list, please.
Next week, next Wednesday, we've got Batgirl 43 comes out. New run of Batgirl, really solid.
Batgirl.
Yeah, Yvonne Craig died this week, unfortunately. 73 though, good run.
Yeah,
she was
Solid
Batgirl.
innings.
You know, Cyborg number 2. Justice League number 3. Brian Hitch has been killing it on that book, in my opinion. I highly recommend checking that out. And I don't normally recommend trades in this, but Marvel's coming out with Next Wave Agents of Hate, which is a collective of Warren which is Warren Ellis's run with those characters, and it was really good. And Warren Ellis is really good. I highly recommend his Moon Knight run. We've also got
just read that.
the Warren Ellis's Moon Knight. It's so good.
Yeah, because I was like, what is
good.
that? Who? Like, I didn't really know much about the character. I was like,
Yeah.
I got to do some reading on this. So
Wait, is it
just
Hero
read
Moon Knight or Bad Moon Knight? Moon Knight.
It's a marvelous night.
It's Moon Knight in a
I'm sorry,
suit
I'm
and
talking
tie.
about Dr. Light.
There you go.
That's what happened.
Yeah,
I was like,
I
Moon
always get those two
Knight.
confused.
It's fine. Yeah,
I am
no,
sorry.
Moon Knight has always been a character that looked really cool, and then Warren Ellis's run made him really
Because
cool.
they're like, it's like Marvel's Batman, kind of.
Yeah, not
really,
but he's legitimately crazy. Anyway,
yeah.
Warren Ellis, awesome. Shield #9. If you like Agents of Shield, check out Shield #9, written by Mark Waid, and also for the Star Wars fan, Lando #3 comes out.
3 already.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Do you have any
What have
recommendations?
we here?
All of the Star Wars comics that have been
Which one's
coming
been
out,
your favorite?
obviously. I think it was a tie for me between the main Star Wars title and Kanan and the Last Padawan because I loved A New Dawn.
I know
We're
you
getting a weird moment here.
I loved A New Dawn and I love Rebels, so I wanted to I want to see more about Kanan. And then as far as DC stuff, I mean, anything that Vertigo's putting out right now, I would go and pick up. I'm currently, like I said, rereading The Wake.
Yeah, The Wake was good.
Because I love Scott Snyder and just anything that he kind of puts his hand on. And then the Batgirl titles, all of the Young Gotham stuff is
The Young Gotham.
some of my favorite.
I got that little like $1 check them out thing.
Yeah.
And Gotham Academy was really
Yep.
good, and
Gotham
Batgirl was really
Academy.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have
I'll
a
loan you some.
recommendation? I get a question a lot about, and I just want to ask you this real
Yeah.
quick. When people are like, "Wow, where do you recommend starting?" And my recommendation: shit your pants and dive in. Just pick a character that you like, because anything you don't know, you can look it up because that's what I did. I read.
Yeah.
I was back in college, and what got me back in was Batman R.I.P. and Brian Azzarello's Joker.
I like to ask people what they're into.
Yeah.
Because at this point, it's like there is a DC or Marvel title or Image or wherever you're going to go, boom, that's romance, that's sci-fi, that's horror, whatever you're into, and picking
romance.
something based off of that. I feel like for you, I've told you Saga that you would
Saga's
really like.
killer.
Saga's so
I've
good.
been hearing that every
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where the best advice I can give is find out a genre that you really enjoy and then start with a number one. Because I do think it's a little intimidating when you go in, and there are so many number ones now where it's like you can wait a week and pick something up, or it's like you get trades now and you can just pick that up and read everything at once.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, the DCE Essentials book where it's like it gives you a breakdown for each character. So if you're like, I really want to know more about Superman, you know, you can read Birthright. You can pick up one of my favorites if you want to go a little bit more old school. Kingdom Come is one of my favorites. So I always try and do trade, figure out the genre that you like, and pick something.
I'd also throw All-Star Superman in that mix.
Yeah, also Superman for All Seasons.
Yes.
Is really good.
Yeah.
Tim Sale's artwork is
Yeah.
just so beautiful.
It's one of my favorite Superman stories ever.
Yeah. And also, if you're not looking for a Superman tale and you just want an awesome story, Why the Last Man? Still, maybe my favorite run of all
Vertigo.
time. Yeah.
There
Vertigo.
will be a TV show or a movie at some point.
At some point.
Oh, it's
God
so
help
good.
me, it should be a TV show, not a movie. It cannot work
Agreed.
as a movie.
Agreed.
Okay, folks, that's going to be the show
Wait,
for today.
The winner for the poll.
The winner of the poll.
It has not moved since.
It
the
has
last
not
time.
moved.
In
It
fact, Star Wars
is-
went down last.
Yeah,
since-
it is Marvel with 1,111 to Star Wars 892.
To be fair,
Illuminati.
this show is superhero roundup, so our
Yeah.
fan base is a little skewed.
Yes.
Okay.
Disney wins.
Disney still
Yay.
wins
I
because
got
we
my
debated
Mickey
between
nails.
two of their big properties.
It is.
Yeah. So, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us. Where can the people find you?
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. You can find me on social media, Twitter, Insta, Snapchat, at Tiffany's Tweets, Facebook fan page. Every Thursday, there's a new episode of Movie Threesome on Fandango. New episode this week was with iJustine. And I get water balloons thrown at me, so definitely check that out. And then as we're fighting for Star Wars, I host a podcast called Far, Far Away on Geek Nation, all about
Awesome.
Star Wars. Schmoes Know, DC All Access. Like I said, new episode starting September 8th, so definitely check me out there.
Yeah, gosh, she's that busy because she's in the off season of Game of Thrones, where we
Yes.
do our podcast. The
That
Night is
too.
Dark.
That too. The night is dark and full of terrors. Oh, that was. Let's try that again. Okay. That's where you
All
can
right.
find me, being this cool all the time.
Maud, where can people find you online?
Online. Oh, at Maud Garrett on Twitter, Instagram, and if you want to check out my videos on YouTube, then look up Geek Bomb,
Yes, you should.
like a geeky.
And DJ.
That DJ talks trash.
DJ Talks
Look
Trash.
at any social media, and if I'm on it, that will be where I will be.
Yeah.
Dolphin
And hey, you can find me on Twitter at Matt Lieberman, MattLieberman. You can also find me here doing some stuff. I'm not really in front of the camera on SourceFed
Not
anymore because I'm working on a
yet.
special secret project. But you should check out, if you haven't seen it yet, a sketch that I directed that's doing pretty well on Facebook It's a straight out of Compton Kids Pop edition. It's a bunch of great kids, and it's really funny. And I hope that you enjoy it. And I'm reviewing The Strain right now for AfterBuzz TV. So if you like that show or you hate watch that show, you should tune into our podcast because it's awesome.
Poster freaks me out with the.
Oh, I know it. It gets scared. driving around.
Oh
It's
no,
like,
this year's
stop.
poster is way better than last year's poster. Last year's poster with the eye gore was horrible.
no.
Cool. So guys, once again, every week, Fridays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tweet at us, #SHRoundup. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hey, Chris, block Corbin.